Hi, we're starting the build of our Apogee Starlift Mega Lander. Really great looking rocket. The legs articulate down, and you can see a rubber band here, but they articulate down to land on. There's 3 legs. The upper section comes down on its own parachute. The lower section has its parachute, and that gives you a pretty big payload bay for launching just about anything you can think of. It's a little bit non-standard in the way of build. It doesn't have instructions, but it does come with a DVD where Tim Van Milligan tells you how to assemble it. I've already watched the DVD. I'm actually going to deviate from it slightly because I want to paint the fins, whereas on his DVD they stain them. I actually do want to paint the fins and the struts and stuff, and I've figured out how I'm going to do it, and I'll show you as I get to those parts of the steps. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It is designed for 29mm engines, and I've actually started priming already. Another thing that's different about this kit is you prime it before you assemble it. So I've started the priming. We've got the lower section here, and we have the upper section here. So I'm going to get it primed up and paint it before we actually start assembling on that part. It has 3 fins. And these are all plywood fins. We've got the engine mounting rings. We've got a bulkhead block. I'm actually going to put that on out of sequence because of the way I plan on doing the construction. These are the little tip or fingers to the lander. These are housing units for holding them in place. And then there's 3 of these sheets. These are the actual lander legs that all have to be assembled. So lots and lots of pieces. It's all going to be white glue or wood glue. We've got the nose cone. I need to sand and prime this. That's my next step. Then let me show you this. Really, really neat. And again, kudos to Apogee. I ordered this and got it within 7 days, which is awesome. And that's just regular mail, regular shipping. These are real vinyl stickers. The problem with real vinyl is some solvents might make them bleed, so if you go to clear coat, it might make a bleed issue. What I plan on doing is when I put them on, I'm going to actually spray a little clear coat and do a couple layers on a section where there's bleed over from where the actual, on this sheet here, after I've removed all the decals. And that'll tell me if the clear coat I have will bleed, because you have the little excess around the border here. That's going to be left on this sheet when I'm done, and I can use that to test the stay fast of my clear coat. If it's too much solvent and will make it bleed, I might end up trying to use a polyurethane spray or something, so we'll find out about that. I do plan on putting a couple holes in the upper payload section so that I can run an altimeter. It's not really designed to go high per se as much as it's just a show rocket, but I'm still going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to get busy sanding and roughing up the edges on the rocket and getting these seams from the blow molding taken off so that I can prime this and get this ready for paint. We're going to paint everything white, and then the leg parts. Let me grab the little picture here. My plan is to paint just like the picture, except the leg parts, the extension leg parts, I'm actually probably going to paint them red. Everything else is going to be gloss black and white. So I'll be using his same basic color pattern. I'm just going to change a couple steps of it. And I've done a mock-up of this on my Open Rocket simulator, and the mock-up looks pretty good. So we're going to get busy on the rest of our priming and then get back to you when we start actually gluing wood together. Alright, so we've glued the launch lugs onto the main body tube, and we've started our primer coats of the body tubes and the nose cone. And I've grabbed the first strut piece of plywood. I've already knocked out some of the pieces, and you can see the different pieces we have here. And the next step, I actually save all my pieces of wood because you never know when you might just need a piece of wood for something. We want to go ahead and knock out all these little pieces here. Some of these are just scrap pieces like this. So we can knock those out. And when Tim did these pieces, they really left very small pieces to keep the pieces connected, so it's really easy just to turn them out. Now these smaller pieces, you can see I'm pulling them out, I'm just setting them off to the side. I'm not going to break them out into the smaller pieces. This is scrap, that's the piece. But if I leave it in the larger piece, it's harder for it to get damaged or lost. And then these scrap pieces, we're just going to set those off to the side, and eventually they'll all end up in the scrap bin for use in another project or something. So we'll knock out all these parts. And we'll identify what parts we're going to need for this step, and it will include some of these parts in here, and we'll get them all gathered up together so that we can glue these pieces together. Now again, Tim stained all his stuff while I was in the sheet. Since I'm actually going to try and do a little bit different method of staining and painting, I have to take mine out of the sheet to do this. But there'll be some areas I'm going to have to sand before I actually start painting, and I've got little files I can use to knock these burrs down. So I'm going to finish identifying the parts I need for this first assembly step of one leg, and we're going to do one leg at a time, and then we'll actually start the glue up. Alright, we're ready to start glue up. So we've taken all the pieces that we're going to be using for our first leg. It's going to be A1, there's two of those, that's the long pieces. A2 has a long tab and a short tab. That's going to go up here in the front notch. Then we have A3, which has two even-sized tabs. That's going to go here in this back notch. Then we have A4. It's a little teeny tiny piece. It has a fat tab and a skinny tab. The skinny tab is going to point towards the round end of the stick. Now this is where the rubber band attaches, and it actually goes up here in this piece right up in here. So it'll sit up there like that. And that's where your rubber band catches to make the tip of the leg spring out. So A4 there. Then we have A5, which has wide tabs. A6, which has short little tabs. And then A7, which goes up here on this section right here. Now you can use your glue bottle and try and use the tip on that. Mine is the wood glue, yellow glue from Carpenter's, and that's too big of a tip. Tim uses a bellows glue applicator. I'm going to use a paintbrush, and I'm going to paint the pieces with glue to put them on. Now you don't want to smear glue all over the place. We want to kind of watch where we're putting our glue, especially in the areas where we have to worry about the moving parts catching onto it, which is going to be in this section here with A2 and up here with the A3. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint the glue on with a paintbrush. And this is the method I'm going to use for glue application. I think I got pretty good control with it. Now we only want to paint where we're going to be touching the wood. So on A2 we're going to put it on the outside edge right here. And just paint a little bit. I don't need a whole lot. And then we're going to paint the lip and then the edge here. Be sure to get in your corners really, really well. And then we're going to put that in. And remember, the long part goes towards the round end. So we have a long and a short part. The long part goes towards the rounded end. We'll slide that in there and push it all the way down. And then take a rag, paper towel or something. Any glue that comes up on the inside part, go ahead and wipe that out. We don't want any excess glue there. If you're like me, I don't like excess glue anywhere. I'm going to wipe off all my smear out glue just because I don't want it out there. There's a couple little tools that came with the kit for removing glue. They're kind of like toothpicks. You can use those. You can use any flat edge or anything to just scrape the glue, excess glue off that you don't want out there. Now we're going to be making a total of 3 legs. So we're going to be doing this 3 times. Now we're going to take A3. Again, we're going to be painting this part, and then the inside. This is where the fin goes, so we don't want any glue, excess glue on the inside at all. We can have the glue on the outside and it's not going to affect it. But I'm going to be extra neat and careful and just not have extra glue all over the place. So we're going to go ahead and paint that, get it in the corner, along the edge, and in the corner, and on the edge. This part actually goes through the hole, so it does not need any glue there. But we want glue on this outside part because it will be in contact with wood. And basically that's what we're doing, is we're putting glue where the wood's going to contact wood. And then we're going to slide that part in. And then we're going to quickly remove any extra glue that went where we didn't want it. So we'll scrape it. Now something I normally do is I keep a rag on my lap, and it is for wiping glue off. I also have been known to put a rag on my lap that is damp, and I'll use that to wipe excess glue off my fingers if my fingers get sticky or whatever tool I'm using starts getting sticky. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to put this piece on down here. So where's the glue going to go here? Well, it's going to go on this face here, and then the inside of the notch. Face, notch, face, notch, because the notch goes there, or the face goes in here, and the notch goes in here. So we'll go ahead and paint that up. I'm going to do the notch first. So I'll just take and make sure I get in those corners really, really good. And you need to work relatively fast. We don't want the glue to set up before you have a chance to assemble it, because you do need to make sure you're getting things aligned properly. So don't take too much time getting your glue on, but don't get sloppy. This is one rocket where you kind of need to pay attention to what you're doing with your glue. Okay, now we'll paint the faces. Move there. And then we will snap it into place. So again, it goes in. We'll push it up and make sure we're in there. And then we can wipe off any extra glue that we got on the outside. Just take and wipe that off really quick. Again, I'm going to be sanding this later and putting primer on it and then painting it, whereas Tim actually stained his first. So I am kind of doing mine a little bit different than Tim is. Okay, let's go ahead and get this other long piece. Same thing, we're going to paint the glue wherever we need to, so that's going to be the face, the inside, we want sufficient glue to get a good strong bond, but we don't want a lot of excess glue oozing out all over the place, interfering with the operation of the landing gear, because this stuff does have to move. And once it's together, the only way you're going to get rid of any glue globs that dried up is to file them off, and it's kind of hard to work if you don't have microfiles. I do have microfiles. I use them for rounding out my launch lugs on the inside. If I have to cut a launch lug, I always file the inside smooth. Just like in this one, we had to cut a paper launch lug, so we had to file that smooth on the inside. Okay. And one more notch, one more face. And again, we want to be sure we're getting in the corners and on the sides of these notches. And a little bit more on that. Okay. And then we're going to slide this in. Okay. Push it up in there. Make sure everything's in there nice and pretty. Pushing down, pushing in, and we're wiping off our excess. And we'll give everything another push. Make sure it's in there. And when I get done, I'm actually going to be taping this in a closed configuration. Okay, I've got A7 here. I'm saving A4, which is the hardest piece to do, for last. Again, we got the face and the notch, so we're going to do the face and the notch. And we'll push it in there. You notice I saved the wiggly parts for last, so they're not moving around while I'm trying to glue things together. Okay, now A4 is going to be the harder part to do. We don't want any glue on the little notch. So all we're going to glue is this corner and this face, and we're going to be careful about how much glue we put on, because we don't want glue interfering with the operation of the rubber band. So that's there. And we stick it in there. Now we get to glue the other side. This is where we have to kind of work a little bit faster. So we're going to do the notch and the face. Remember the face on the outside, and then the notch. Notch on the face, being careful not to get any on the little tab. Okay, so a little bit here, face, notch. Tim's tool probably would work better for speed. And a little bit more. Kind of spread this glue around a little bit. Getting in those corners. Over here, there. The face. And it's just a matter of remembering face and notch, face and notch. And make sure you don't get the wrong faces. We don't want to paint on the inside where the fin goes, or we don't want any glue there, or where the finger goes, as I'm going to call the tip of the lander that extends out. Okay, almost there. You can use white glue or wood glue. I myself like the wood glue. It tends to grab and dry a little faster, I think, and it doesn't let the sag issue isn't nearly as bad with it, where you see fins move and sag while you're putting them on, because it has a high grab. Okay, again, we got to be really careful here on this part. We don't want any glue on the inside, this section here. So we're going to paint the outside. We're going to paint the tab. Now you can put a fillet of glue in here, because nothing's going to be touching this part here, and that'll give you a little bit of strength. And then we can do the same thing on the other end on the outside, but you can actually reach that from outside once you have everything together. So now we're going to snap it all together. Make sure you have your notches right, lined up the same way. And just start at the big end and work your way down. Wiggle and finagle as you go. Nice little piece there, and there we go. Now this piece, you need to kind of look at it when you put it in there and make sure that you're squared up and that you have space on both sides of the peg so that you can slip a rubber band around there, because you're going to need to put a rubber band in there. Now, very quickly, we need to get our little toothpicks or glue sticks, as he calls them, and make sure that we knock out any glue that might be in here. So you can use your straight edge or whatever you want. Just push it down, make sure we get all that glue out of that area. Because if you don't, it's not going to function. Then you're going to have to reach in there and try and sand it. And then the same thing here on the tip. We're going to slide our little stick down and make sure we got all the glue out of there. No glue. Okay. So now, if you have issues and you don't think it's going to stay together while it's drying, ta-da! Just remember, don't tape the glue if you can help it, because it kind of grabs the tape and then you're fighting with it to get it to let go. Just pull it around. There's one. And I'm going to do it in a couple spots. There's two. And then right up here on the end. Go right here. I'm pulling the tape tight. Oop, pull the tape loose. I'm pulling the tape tight to pull the sandwich that we've made out of with this strut together. So now there's not going to be gaps here where the wood should be holding together. And up here the tip looks pretty good. I'm going to clean this tip up a little bit because I'm going to put a better fillet in there later on. I'm going to make it nice and pretty clean. So I'm going to clean it up for right now and then fix that later. Okay, so we'll pull that closed tightly with a piece of tape. Now this back side, that's actually going to be open and playable, so we'll leave that as is. So with 4 pieces of tape, I've got this held together. Kind of squeeze around, see if anything's loose, if you need to tighten anything up. If you do, just take a piece of tape and tighten it up. It's the lovely thing about tape. Alright, that looks good to me. And there are some gaps here. I'm going to be filling them with wood putty later on. That's why I didn't stain or sand. So I'm actually doing my assembly just a little bit different than Tim Van Milligan did. Great job on his thing. I'm going to try something different. I'm experimenting with a $100 rocket. Alright, so I'm going to build up the other 2 legs, and then we'll start working on the next part after that.